All set? Well, hello, Mergians. So today I am also talking on the Sermon on the Mount, but I'm doing chapter 6, just like Tanya, but I'm doing the earlier chapter. But before I read the verse I want to talk about that I'm focusing on, I'm just going to talk about some couple examples here. So I'd ask you if you were here in person, but I guess for the people here right now, I can talk to you. How many of you guys, when you were a kid, remember trying to butter up your parents to get something, or doing a couple extra chores, but the motive was to, maybe you got ground from video games, you want to play your video games or want to have a friend over, so you try to do more jobs or be extra nice to get something. And oftentimes in life, we do that. We do things we do nice things to and for people, but we do it because we have an ulterior motive. So in Matthew chapter 6, verse 1, it says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So whenever you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." So the message that I'm trying to get at today is, I'm talking about the condition and the placement of your heart. So when you're doing something for other people, you don't want to do it so there's an ulterior motive. You don't want to do it for something, because then you're not doing it out of the kindness of your heart like Jesus would. You're doing it because you want something from somebody. So there's a war between pridefulness and humbleness, or humility. And kind of like David in the Bible, David was a man after God's own heart. And a lot of this is because David had a humble and submissive heart. So if you ever wonder, why God can't use me because I have this going on in my life, or I'm not qualified enough, the only qualification that you would have to worry about is if your heart is in the right place and you have a humble and submissive heart to God. Because if you're filled with pride, God can't use that as well. He's not saying he can't, but he's more likely and more willingly to use a humble and submissive heart. And kind of another example, my dad would love hearing this because growing up, he'd always kind of jokingly make fun of us, my brothers and I, for this, is that if we were ever trying to look for something, so pretend we needed batteries, or he asked us to get something out of the fridge for supper, he'd say, "Hey, go and get the mayonnaise," or whatever it was. And we'd go in the fridge, and we'd be looking around, and it would take us far too long to find that item. And then my mom would come by and find it in 30 seconds, like, "Oh, it's right here." I'm like, that was not there when I looked for it. No. And my dad would call that tunnel vision, because I was so zoned in on whatever I was looking at. I wasn't looking at the thing that I was supposed to. I wasn't broadening my perspective. But in that case, that would be a negative thing. But in this case, the tunnel vision actually works in a good sense, because I want to encourage everybody to have tunnel vision towards Jesus and just zone in on God and everything that you're doing. And oftentimes, the people who are the quietest and who are working behind the scenes, who are praying behind the scenes, who are doing things not to get earthly rewards, they're not that it's not a sin to tell somebody that you do something good or to pray with other people, because there's a lot of power in prayer. Don't get me wrong. Don't go home to your family and say, "Oh, Josh said you can't pray with people." That's wrong. Not the message. There is power in prayer, but what you do behind the closed doors, God will honor you for that, and you will receive your reward in full. And if you don't, then your reward will be the grit, the praise, and whatever outcome comes from those around you. So, and another thing I want to say is, I want to leave you with a question. Think and ask yourself, what can I do for others, and not what can others do for me, before you do something. So if you're going into anything really, if you're going in to help somebody and you're keeping track, keeping score, like, "Oh, last week I helped you do this," or "Hey, go up to your brother and say, 'I did the dishes last week, so you got to do the dishes this week.'" Don't keep track, don't keep score, because that's not the purpose of it. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart for your family, especially for your parents. And even if I go to work and I get toilet duty or something to clean up, it might not be a job that I like, but at the end of the day, you're not only doing it for your boss, but you're also doing it for Jesus. You're serving God in everything that you do and honoring him with your body. I'm going to caption that there, close it there. Anyways, thank you.